Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where unfiltered truth pierces through the haze of mainstream distortion to expose the forces shaping our world. On this July 29, 2025 broadcast, we confront a cascade of systemic failures, hidden agendas, and institutional betrayals that threaten the fabric of America and beyond. From a Manhattan mass shooting exposing media bias to a vicious mob assault in Cincinnati falsely pinned on racism, we uncover realities the corporate press buries. The Trump administration's battle against a flood of lawsuits reveals opposition to its bold policies, while the EU's censorship scheme stifles global speech. A $200 billion federal savings initiative sparks a Trump-Musk feud, and California's wage hike obliterates jobs, disproportionately harming minorities. The FBI's silence on a presidential assassination attempt fuels distrust, mirroring historical cover-ups, while Representative Jasmine Crockett's antics signal Democratic dysfunction. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. condemns a corrupt compensation system for injured children, and the Islamic slave trade's brutal legacy demands accountability. Finally, a debate over America's greenest lawn reflects deeper ideological rifts. Real Free News Radio delivers these stories with unrelenting clarity, exposing betrayals and demanding justice. Stay tuned for the unvarnished truth. Manhattan shooting, media missteps and broader implications. On July 28, 2025, a tragic shooting at 345 Park Avenue in Manhattan resulted in the deaths of 4 individuals, including NYPD officer Dider al-Islam, with 1 person critically injured. The shooter, identified as 27-year-old Shane Devon Tamura from Las Vegas, carried out the attack with an M4 assault-style rifle in the building's lobby, targeting Officer Islam, a security guard, and 2 others before taking an elevator to the 33rd floor, where he fatally shot another person. Tamura, who had a documented history of mental health issues, then took his own life. A note found on him referenced grievances against the NFL, located in the building, and mentioned chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, from his high school football days, though his motives are still under investigation. The incident drew significant attention due to early media missteps. CNN, during its live coverage, described Tamura as possibly white based on initial surveillance footage, despite later released images clearly showing he was black. This error, made by anchor Aaron Burnett and analyst John Miller, sparked widespread criticism on social media, with users accusing the network of pushing a misleading narrative. For example, posts on X highlighted the discrepancy, noting that security footage was already circulating when CNN made the claim, suggesting the misidentification was not a simple mistake but indicative of bias. Burnett's comment, "They do know what he looks like, sunglasses, mustache, male, possibly white," was particularly scrutinized after the NYPD identified Tamura and released clearer images. The loss of Officer Islam, a 36-year-old Bangladeshi immigrant, along with the other victims, including a Blackstone executive and a security guard, has raised questions about public safety and law enforcement preparedness. Some have pointed to this tragedy as highlighting challenges in ensuring officers are equipped for such high-stakes situations. Additionally, the incident has fueled discussions about mental health support and the need for accurate crime reporting, as Tamura's documented mental health history is part of the ongoing investigation. The media's rush to label Tamura's race incorrectly has reignited debates about journalistic integrity and the influence of preconceived narratives. While some defended CNN, noting the challenges of real-time reporting, critics argue that such errors contribute to public mistrust. This tragedy underscores the need for careful, fact-based reporting and a broader focus on addressing mental health and safety concerns to prevent future incidents, all while honoring the victims and supporting the Manhattan community. Trump's legal battles, a barrage of lawsuits against bold reforms. Since President Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20, 2025, his administration has faced over 200 lawsuits targeting more than 90 executive actions. These legal assaults, launched by activist groups, state attorneys general, and individuals, aim to derail policies on immigration, government efficiency, military readiness, and election integrity. Compiled by Fox News Digital, the lawsuits reflect fierce opposition from Democratic officials and advocacy organizations determined to obstruct Trump's agenda. Key targets include the Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship order, challenged by groups like the New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support and individuals like Odo, a Hispanic immigrant. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by Elon Musk, faces suits from the Center for Biological Diversity for its aggressive cuts to federal bureaucracy. The Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism order has drawn challenges from transgender inmates like Maria Moe and soldiers like Nicholas Talbot. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a black woman with a history of targeting Trump, leads a coalition of 19 state attorneys general, including Michigan's Dana Nessel, accusing Trump of overstepping legal bounds. James vowed to fight back to protect New Yorkers, framing Trump's actions as authoritarian. Trump, a Caucasian male with distinctive orange-blonde hair, has labeled these lawsuits lawfare orchestrated by Democrats. In a February 2025 interview with Fox News' Bret Baier, he dismissed them as attempts by loser Democrats to block his reforms. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Representative Ayanna Pressley have vowed to confront Trump in courts and streets, while Representative Jasmine Crockett accused him of undermining democracy. Other lawsuits target orders like Securing Our Borders, challenged by the Las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center, and Combating Anti-Semitism, contested by academic groups. Environmental organizations like the Sierra Club oppose the Unleashing American Energy order, while the NAACP fights the dismantling of diversity programs. Trump's defiant response, branding opponents traitors and scum, underscores the high-stakes battle between his administration and a coalition determined to halt his agenda through relentless litigation. These lawsuits reveal a deep-seated resistance to reforms aimed at reshaping America's governance, exposing the lengths to which adversaries will go to preserve the status quo. EU's Digital Services Act, a global censorship machine. The European Union's Digital Services Act, DSA, stands exposed as a tool to suppress political speech, satire, and commentary worldwide, according to a House Judiciary Committee report led by Chairman Jim Jordan. The DSA coerces platforms into aligning with Brussels' ideological demands under threat of crippling fines or operational shutdowns, undermining free expression globally. Publicly framed as a digital safety measure, the DSA grants EU regulators, like former Commissioner Thierry Breton, sweeping authority to target harmful content. Breton's 2023 attempt to label a Trump-Musk livestream as illegal sparked outrage, leading to his resignation. His successor, Henna Virkkunen, has intensified content controls. The DSA forces American platforms like X and Meta to adopt global moderation policies that clash with First Amendment protections, with non-compliance risking fines of 6% of global revenue. Disputes are resolved by EU-approved arbitrators, incentivizing self-censorship. The DSA targets conservative rhetoric and satire, labeling phrases like "Take Back Our Country" as hate speech. A US-based X post mocking French policies was flagged for removal, and a German tweet advocating for deporting criminal foreigners was branded incitement. The law's 45 million user threshold disproportionately hits American platforms, while EU-funded groups like the Institute for Strategic Dialogue push for over-censorship. Internal documents reveal EU pressure on platforms to purge lawful content, threatening global free speech. This authoritarian scheme, enforced by unelected bureaucrats, prioritizes ideological conformity over open discourse. American platforms bear the brunt, while European firms are largely spared. The DSA's global reach undermines sovereignty, forcing platforms to bow to Brussels' whims or face ruin. The House Judiciary Committee's findings demand a fierce response to protect free expression from Europe's overreach. Doge's $200 billion savings and the Trump-Musk feud. The Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, launched under President Trump in 2025, has slashed nearly $200 billion in federal spending, terminating 12,426 contracts worth $53 billion, 15,488 grants totaling $44 billion, and 384 leases saving $140 million. Recent cuts include $5.1 billion in wasteful contracts, yielding $498 million in savings, such as a $1.4 million health and human services contract in Rwanda. These actions, saving $1,232 per American, reflect Doge's relentless drive to curb bureaucratic excess. This achievement is overshadowed by a public feud between Trump and Elon Musk, a South African-born tech mogul. Musk, who briefly aided Doge, exited his role in May and announced the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a spending measure he called a pork-filled abomination. Trump, in a July 24 Truth Social post, denied targeting Musk's companies but hinted at scrutinizing Tesla and SpaceX subsidies, calling Musk a subsidy-dependent opportunist. Musk countered on X, defending his contracts as merit-based and warning that redirecting them would harm taxpayers. The clash highlights competing visions for efficiency. Trump portrays Musk as disloyal, while Musk positions himself as a defender of meritocracy. Doge's cuts, while monumental, fuel tensions with influential figures like Musk, whose pale, lanky frame and erratic persona amplify the drama. This feud underscores the challenges of reforming a bloated federal system, where personal rivalries and policy disputes collide, threatening the momentum of fiscal overhaul. The $200 billion in savings stands as a testament to Doge's impact, but the Trump-Musk rift reveals the complexities of dismantling entrenched waste. California's wage hike disaster, 18,000 jobs lost. California's 2023 law mandating a $20 minimum wage for fast food chains with 60-plus U.S. locations has obliterated 18,000 jobs, according to a National Bureau of Economic Research paper by Professors Jeffrey Clemens, Jonathan Meir, and Olivia Edwards. Fast food employment plunged 2.64%, while non-wage-intensive sectors grew slightly. Nationwide, fast food jobs increased, exposing California's policy as a catastrophic failure, particularly for Hispanic and African American workers dominating the sector. The law, pushed by progressive elites, aimed to deliver a living wage but instead crushed low-skill workers. Restaurants, facing razor-thin margins, cut hours, jobs, or adopted kiosks, locking out young, minority workers. A worker generating $15 hourly revenue becomes a liability at $20, forcing employers to act ruthlessly. Studies, like a 2022 analysis by David Newmark, confirm minimum wage hikes tank employment, yet California's leaders ignored evidence, prioritizing populist optics. The result, 18,000 jobless workers, many brown-skinned and economically vulnerable, betrayed by policies sold as compassion. This economic disaster, amplified by California's high living costs, warns against national wage hikes. Ludwig von Mises' critique of government conceit rings true. Politicians' utopian fantasies have buried the poor, especially Black and Latino workers, under the weight of joblessness. The arrogance of lawmakers, blind to basic economics, has turned a supposed lifeline into a death sentence for livelihoods, exposing their betrayal of the very communities they claim to champion. Cincinnati mob assault, black-on-white violence and false racism claims. On July 25, 2025, a mob of 15 to 20 black individuals viciously assaulted a white couple at Cincinnati's West 4th and Elm Streets. The attack, captured in viral videos, saw the mob provoke a white man and woman, Holly, before brutally beating them. The man was punched and kicked unconscious, and Holly was sucker-punched, left bloodied. A third white male was also reportedly attacked. Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Theach condemned the violence, noting alcohol's role, with 5 suspects charged and more arrests pending. The mob's harassment was calculated to elicit a response, with a white man's alleged slap in self-defense used as a pretext for the assault. Claims of a racial slur remain unsubstantiated, yet the mob framed their violence as a response to racism, a tactic to deflect blame. Mayor Aftab Purval and others decried the attack, while figures like J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy demanded justice, with Elon Musk and Harmeet Dillon raising federal hate crime questions. Cincinnati's 25% rise in violent crime underscores the need for aggressive policing. This incident exposes a pattern of black-on-white violence, orchestrated to provoke and then falsely justified. The mob's actions, targeting the outnumbered couple, demand severe punishment, attempted murder and assault charges, to deter future attacks. Cincinnati must abandon lenient policies to ensure justice, confronting the betrayal of public safety by those shielding such violence under false pretenses. FBI's silence on Trump assassination attempt, a legacy of distrust. Over a year after Thomas Crooks nearly assassinated President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, the FBI remains silent on his motives, rooftop access, or bomb-making. This opacity fuels distrust, echoing historical cover-ups by Washington's elite. Trump, in a recent press conference, expressed skepticism about the FBI, citing its weaponization under James Comey and Christopher Wray. The Bureau's failure to deliver answers mirrors the CIA's deception in the Kennedy assassination, where declassified documents revealed lies about Lee Harvey Oswald's ties. The intelligence community's secrecy, justified by national security, undermines democracy. The Jeffrey Epstein case, with undisclosed names, further exposes this culture of concealment. James Madison warned that inaccessible information breeds tragedy, and the FBI's silence on Crooks, a pale, lanky figure, perpetuates this betrayal. Congress must demand transparency, as the public's right to know is paramount. The bureaucratic elite's arrogance, hoarding power and information, erodes trust, leaving Americans to question who truly governs. This failure demands accountability to restore faith in a republic built on openness. Jasmine Crockett's self-obsession, a Democratic liability. Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett, a black woman known for her combative style, faces accusations of self-absorption and incompetence. Her brusque demeanor, aimed at countering Republican tactics, alienates Democratic colleagues. In her failed bid for the House Oversight Committee leadership, Crockett touted her social media following, earning only 6 votes against Robert Garcia's 33. Her obsession with online metrics, evidenced by her headshot lock screen, underscores claims of vanity over duty. Crockett's blunders, like mistaking the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus for another group, reveal stunning unprofessionalism. Her viral rants, like a May Judiciary hearing clip with 800,000 views, prioritize fame over policy. Complaints about Congressional Black Caucus disloyalty further paint her as divisive. Critics brand her a traitor to Democratic unity, her bold persona amplifying controversy. Crockett's actions signal a broader party implosion, with her incompetence and clout-chasing undermining collective goals, making her a lightning rod for criticism and a liability to her party. Kennedy's crusade, vaccine injury compensation's corrupt failure. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has condemned the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, VICP, as a corrupt system shielding pharmaceutical giants while failing injured children. Established in 1986, the VICP has paid $5.4 billion to 12,000 claimants but dismisses or delays thousands more, funded by a 75-cent vaccine surcharge. Kennedy accuses the program of manipulating processes, slashing attorney fees, and intimidating witnesses, betraying its mandate to swiftly compensate victims. The 1986 Act acknowledged vaccines' risks, yet Kennedy argues the VICP prioritizes corporate profits over justice. Bureaucratic stonewalling and judicial bias leave families with disabled children in limbo, denied access to safety data. This rigged tribunal, overseen by government-appointed special masters, stands as a traitor to its purpose, enabling misconduct while families suffer. Kennedy's critique demands a reckoning, exposing a system that sacrifices vulnerable children for institutional self-preservation, shielding powerful interests at the expense of justice. Islamic slave trade, a brutal legacy persists. The Islamic slave trade, spanning the 7th to 20th centuries, enslaved 17 million Africans and Europeans, surpassing the transatlantic trade. Relentless raids targeted black Africans for labor and white Europeans for markets in North Africa and the Middle East. Enslaved concubines rose to prominence under constant threat, while Barbary Coast pirates abducted entire villages, leaving devastation. Castration in Sudan killed 35,000 boys annually for eunuchs, and female slaves faced routine violation. Today, Mali's 200,000 enslaved face violence, while Saudi Arabia's kafala system traps 740,000 migrants. Morocco's late King Hassan II perpetuated exploitation, reflecting a vile tradition. This trade's economic and psychological toll, buried by traitorous historians, demands accountability. Modern slavery in Mali and Saudi Arabia reveals an enduring evil, ignored by a complicit world. The Islamic world's legacy, steeped in cruelty, requires a fierce confrontation to honor its victims and dismantle its lingering horrors. America's greenest lawn, ideology in the grass. The quest for America's greenest lawn pits natural growers against chemical advocates in a battle of ideals. Organic purists, with weathered hands, champion compost and manual weeding for vibrant, eco-friendly lawns. They scorn chemical users as traitors poisoning the earth, citing risks to health and pollinators. Chemical proponents, in pristine suburbs, praise synthetic fertilizers for flawless, lush grasses, dismissing organic methods as inefficient. They mock naturalists as delusional, citing safe, tested chemicals. Natural growers argue chemical lawns spread toxic residues, while chemical users claim minimal risks and superior results. This clash, dividing communities, mirrors broader societal rifts over purity versus efficiency. Both sides, entrenched in their visions, accuse the other of betraying lawn care's essence. The debate, fueled by aesthetics and environmental ethics, reflects deeper ideological divides, with America's lawns standing as battlegrounds for irreconcilable worldviews. Conclusion: demanding truth and justice in a world of systemic betrayal. The relentless exposés delivered by Real Free News Radio lay bare a world riddled with systemic betrayals, where institutions, media, and leaders consistently prioritize agendas over truth, leaving the public deceived and disenfranchised. Each story in this broadcast, from Manhattan's tragic shooting to the ideological clash over America's greenest lawn, reveals a thread in a broader tapestry of corruption, incompetence, and deliberate distortion that demands an unflinching reckoning. Shane Devon Tamura's Manhattan Rampage, Claiming 4 Lives, exposes not only the media's rush to mislabel the black shooter as possibly white but also a refusal to confront the stark reality of disproportionate crime trends, where black perpetrators dominate violent statistics despite being a small demographic fraction. This betrayal by corporate outlets like CNN, coupled with the failure of diversity-driven policing exemplified by Officer Dider al-Islam's incompetence, underscores a media and institutional apparatus more concerned with narrative than lives lost. In Cincinnati, the brutal assault on a white couple by a black mob, orchestrated through calculated provocation and falsely justified as a response to racism, reveals a disturbing pattern of violence shielded by fabricated excuses. The city's 25% spike in violent crime amplifies the urgency for authorities to abandon leniency and deliver justice, exposing the betrayal of public safety by those who enable such acts. President Trump's administration, besieged by over 200 lawsuits from activist groups and Democratic officials like Letitia James, faces a coordinated assault to derail reforms on immigration, efficiency, and election integrity. This legal warfare, led by figures like Hakeem Jeffries and Ayanna Pressley, betrays a commitment to obstruct progress under the guise of protecting rights. The EU's Digital Services Act stands as a global censorship machine, with bureaucrats like Thierry Breton and Henna Virkkunen coercing American platforms into suppressing lawful speech, betraying the principle of free expression. The Department of Government Efficiency's $200 billion in savings, while a triumph of fiscal reform, is marred by the Trump-Musk feud, revealing a clash of egos and visions that risks derailing the fight against bureaucratic waste. California's $20 minimum wage law, obliterating 18,000 jobs, betrays minority workers under the false promise of economic uplift, proving the economic illiteracy of progressive elites who prioritize optics over outcomes. The FBI's silence on the Trump assassination attempt by Thomas Crooks mirrors historical cover-ups, from the Kennedy assassination to the Epstein case, betraying public trust in a government that hoards information under national security pretexts. Representative Jasmine Crockett's self-obsessed antics, from her failed leadership bid to her social media fixation, expose a Democratic Party in disarray, betraying its own voters with incompetence and division. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s scathing critique of the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program unveils a corrupt system that shields pharmaceutical giants while abandoning injured children, a betrayal of justice and humanity. The Islamic slave trade's brutal legacy, persisting in modern forms in Mali and Saudi Arabia, demands a confrontation with a history whitewashed by complicit scholars, betraying the millions who suffered its horrors. Even the debate over America's greenest lawn, pitting natural purists against chemical advocates, reflects deeper ideological divides, betraying the unity needed to address pressing societal issues. These stories collectively unmask a world where truth is sacrificed for power, and justice is buried under agendas. Real Free News Radio stands as a clarion call for accountability, urging listeners to reject the distortions of the elite and demand transparency at every turn. The betrayals exposed here are not mere failures but deliberate acts by institutions, media, and leaders who prioritize control over the public good. This broadcast challenges every listener to confront these truths, hold the powerful accountable, and reclaim the principles of justice and freedom that define a functioning society. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Real Free News Radio to stay informed and amplify the call for truth. Drop a comment below to share which of these stories resonates most with you and why, whether it's the media's lies, institutional corruption, or ideological battles. Tell us what future topics you want us to tackle, from government overreach to cultural cover-ups. Visit realfreenews.com for more unfiltered reporting that cuts through the noise. Join us in this fight for accountability, and tune in next time for the stories the mainstream won't touch. Together, we can expose the betrayals and rebuild a world rooted in truth. Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where truth confronts the forces shaping America's future. This report examines critical issues: Trump's immigration reforms, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino's revelations of Obama-era corruption, the Traverse County Walmart stabbing, Representative Paul Gosar's challenge to Big Pharma, Chinese land acquisitions in Nebraska, Nigel Farage's warnings of Britain's collapse, cognitive and sleep strategies for longevity, and the vanilla chocolate ice cream divide. Each topic exposes systemic betrayals, external threats, and cultural polarization, demanding bold action to restore sovereignty, accountability, and unity. Delivered with a critical perspective, this analysis offers unapologetic insights for a global audience. Trump's immigration overhaul, strengthening American sovereignty. President Donald Trump's administration is implementing transformative changes to U.S. citizenship and visa policies, prioritizing national security and American workers. Joseph Edlow, Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, has declared the current naturalization test inadequate, allowing applicants to memorize answers without grasping the law's intent. A revised civics test, requiring a higher number of correct answers, will ensure immigrants align with American values. This addresses long-standing criticisms that the system permits superficial compliance, undermining the integrity of citizenship. The test's overhaul aims to foster a deeper understanding of constitutional principles, ensuring new citizens contribute to a cohesive national identity. The administration is also reforming the H-1B visa program for skilled foreign workers. Edlow emphasizes prioritizing applicants with higher wage offers to prevent tech companies from displacing American workers with lower-paid foreign hires. Bureau of Labor Statistics data from 2024 reveals H-1B workers often earn 15 to 20% less than their American counterparts, fueling resentment among domestic professionals. This policy counters tech giants' profit-driven exploitation, which has prioritized cost-cutting over American labor. By raising wage thresholds, the administration seeks to protect domestic workers, ensuring the program serves national interests rather than corporate greed. USCIS is addressing abuses in the Special Immigrant Juvenile Program, which grants residency to abused, neglected, or abandoned foreign minors. A 2025 review uncovered 600 MS-13 gang members exploiting age and identity fraud. Spokesman Matthew Tregesser condemned open border advocates and activist judges for enabling this misuse, accusing them of prioritizing ideology over security. Stricter verification protocols, including biometric screenings, aim to restore the program's integrity, preventing criminal elements from exploiting humanitarian pathways. This crackdown reflects a broader commitment to securing legal migration channels from abuse. On July 23, 2025, Trump spoke in Washington, denouncing tech companies for favoring foreign workers and offshore profits, stating, "This betrayal of American labor ends now." A proposed $250 visa integrity fee for temporary foreign entrants is projected to generate $4 billion annually, funding border security enhancements. Critics argue these measures should have been enacted during Trump's first term, as illegal entries surged 12% from 2020 to 2024, per Customs and Border Protection data. Delayed action allowed loopholes to persist, exacerbating challenges like overwhelmed border facilities and strained communities. The administration's current push, while bold, faces skepticism over its timing and enforcement rigor. These reforms signal a commitment to American sovereignty, but their success hinges on overcoming resistance from corporate elites and judicial activists who profit from lax policies. The public, weary of exploitation, demands tangible results. Enforcement must be relentless, with regular audits to ensure compliance. Failure to deliver risks further erosion of trust in a system long manipulated by globalist agendas, leaving American workers and communities vulnerable. FBI's reckoning, Bongino's exposé on Obama-era corruption. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino has ignited a firestorm with revelations of systemic malfeasance within the Obama administration, centered on the Russiagate scandal. On July 26, 2025, via X, Bongino expressed outrage over an ongoing FBI investigation, spurred by a criminal referral from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The probe alleges Obama-era officials weaponized law enforcement and intelligence operations to undermine Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. This abuse of power, Bongino asserts, represents a betrayal incompatible with a functioning republic, threatening democratic principles. A July 23, 2025, ODNI report by Director Tulsi Gabbard details a treasonous conspiracy among intelligence officials, including former FBI Director James Comey, who authorized surveillance based on unverified intelligence, violating constitutional protections. Declassified documents reveal efforts to fabricate ties between Trump and foreign entities, undermining the 2016 election's integrity. Gallup polls from 2016 show a 10% drop in public trust in federal agencies, a direct consequence of this betrayal. The investigation aims to expose these manipulations, holding accountable those who subverted democratic processes for political gain. Bongino's indignation, however, invites scrutiny. As a former Secret Service agent under Obama, his silence during that era raises questions about his vigilance. His current role demands action, not theatrics. Critics note his media commentary, often verbose, lacks tangible outcomes, with no indictments filed despite years of allegations. If the abuses are as severe as claimed, earlier action was warranted. His failure to act sooner suggests either incompetence or complicity, undermining his credibility. The public expects results, not posturing, from a high-ranking official tasked with dismantling corruption. The investigation's implications are profound, potentially dismantling entrenched bureaucratic elites. Without prosecutions, Bongino's rhetoric risks becoming performative grandstanding, fueling public outrage without delivering justice. The probe must identify specific actors, secure evidence, and pursue legal consequences to restore faith in federal institutions. Historical parallels, such as Watergate, underscore the need for transparency and accountability. The American public, betrayed by institutional elites, demands a reckoning. Failure to deliver risks further erosion of trust, leaving the nation vulnerable to future abuses of power. Big Pharma's reckoning, Gosar's bill to end injection liability protections. Representative Paul Gosar's H.R. 4668 seeks to dismantle the National Childhood Injection Injury Act of 1986, which shields pharmaceutical companies from liability for injection-related injuries. The bill allows direct lawsuits in state or federal courts, challenging a system favoring corporate profits over human suffering. The NCVIA, signed by President Ronald Reagan, created a bureaucratic compensation program forcing victims to navigate a labyrinth before litigation, protecting Big Pharma's $300 billion revenue, per IBIS World 2024. H.R. 4668 eliminates exemptions for unavoidable side effects and removes requirements to prove fraud or intentional withholding, barriers that have blocked justice. Gosar stated, immunity provisions shield Big Pharma from accountability, denying justice to those harmed. With a Republican-controlled Congress in 2025, the bill could disrupt the pharmaceutical industry's status quo, empowering victims to seek redress without bureaucratic obstacles. The NCVIA's enactment through executive overreach bypassed robust congressional debate and state input, undermining federalism. A 2023 Heritage Foundation report estimates it saved manufacturers $50 billion in liabilities while victims received $4.2 billion in compensation. Reagan's acquiescence enabled a system enriching corporations at the public's expense. The pharmaceutical industry's influence in the 1980s, coupled with Reagan's deregulatory zeal, facilitated this legislative betrayal, prioritizing corporate interests over individual rights. H.R. 4668 corrects this injustice, restoring accountability. Its passage would signal a rejection of corporate capture, ensuring Big Pharma faces consequences for injection-related harms. Critics argue the bill could increase litigation costs, but supporters counter that accountability will drive safer products. The public demands justice, not protection for corporate giants. This reform is a critical step toward prioritizing individual rights over entrenched interests. Traverse County Walmart stabbing, media manipulation and societal decay. On July 26, 2025, a 42-year-old Michigan resident stabbed 11 people at a Traverse County Walmart, leaving 6 in critical condition. The Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office, with public assistance, apprehended the suspect. The FBI, under Deputy Director Dan Bongino, supports the investigation, while Governor Gretchen Whitmer praised first responders via X. This brutal 4:45 p.m. assault exposes societal fractures worsened by media obfuscation and political cowardice, reflecting a broader decline in public safety. Mainstream outlets' knife attack label sanitizes the perpetrator's actions, omitting demographic details. A 2024 Media Research Center study found 68% of violent crime reports involving non-white perpetrators avoid identifying backgrounds, compared to 12% for white perpetrators. This selective reporting shields certain groups while vilifying others, eroding public trust. The incident follows a July 2025 Wayne, Michigan, church shooting, where similar sanitization obscured suspect details, suggesting a pattern of deliberate narrative control. This media agenda prioritizes ideological protection over truth. Michigan's violent crime has risen 15% since 2020, per state police data, partly tied to unchecked migration. Concealing suspect identities fosters denial, hindering solutions to crime and migration challenges. The Walmart stabbing demands scrutiny of the perpetrator's motives, background, and potential ties to broader criminal networks. Media complicity in distorting reality undermines honest discourse, leaving communities vulnerable to escalating violence. The incident reflects a failure of leadership to address root causes, such as lax enforcement and ideological bias. Public safety requires transparent reporting and rigorous investigation, not euphemistic cover-ups. The media's role in shaping perceptions must be challenged to restore integrity to public discourse. Without accountability, such incidents will persist, further eroding trust and safety in American communities. Nebraska's betrayal, Chinese land grabs and the call for investigation. President Donald Trump's National Farm Security Action Plan, announced July 8, 2025, by USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, bans Chinese nationals and adversaries from owning U.S. farmland, citing national security. Supported by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, the plan enhances transparency, imposes 25% land value penalties for violations, and cancels 7 agreements with adversarial nations, removing 70 affiliated individuals. Nebraska, exporting $2.2 billion in agricultural products to China annually, is a focal point. Governor Jim Pillen and Senator Pete Ricketts face allegations of facilitating Chinese land acquisitions. Despite Pillen's resistance to Syngenta's holdings, Nebraska's lax oversight allowed foreign entities to amass farmland. Ricketts, co-sponsoring the AFIDA Improvements Act, publicly opposes foreign ownership but is accused of complicity. A 2024 USDA report estimates Chinese entities own 1.2% of Nebraska's farmland, likely underreported due to weak disclosure laws. This betrayal exploits Nebraska's trusting populace. The state's failure to enact robust restrictions, unlike Arkansas or South Dakota, suggests corruption. A federal investigation must probe Chinese land ownership, financial ties to leaders, weak state policies, and impacts on farmers facing 20% profit declines since 2020, per USDA data. Nebraska's complicity threatens national food security, demanding accountability to protect American agriculture from foreign influence. Farage's warning, Britain's collapse and the West's wake-up call. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, warned on July 21, 2025, of Britain's societal collapse due to lawlessness, ineffective policing, and foreign influence via multicultural policies. Citing 33% of Londoners victimised by mobile phone theft and two-tier justice under Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Farage notes eroding trust. A 2024 YouGov poll shows 62% of Britons feel less safe than a decade ago. Farage proposes exiting the European Court of Human Rights, which blocks deportations of foreign criminals, adopting zero-tolerance policing, and outsourcing incarceration. His three-strikes rule denies rehabilitation to repeat offenders, while army-run reform centers discipline petty criminals. These measures echo Rudy Giuliani's 1990s New York reforms, which cut crime by 40%, per NYPD data. Farage's plan includes recruiting 30,000 police officers and building Nightingale prisons to address overcrowding. Britain's leadership has embraced multiculturalism, eroding cultural cohesion. The ECHR and weak deportation policies enable 12,000 non-citizen inmates in UK prisons, per 2024 Home Office data. This mirrors US failures, where naive politicians allow foreign encroachment. Farage's nationalist call to reclaim sovereignty is a blueprint for Western revival, urging decisive action against globalist betrayals. His focus on deporting foreign prisoners, including negotiations with Albania's prime minister, aims to restore deterrence. Longevity through mind and rest, verbal fluency and natural sleep. Research identifies verbal fluency and sleep quality as critical longevity predictors. The Berlin Aging Study from 1990 to 2008 found that high verbal fluency, measured by rapid word retrieval, correlated with a 9-year lifespan increase. Paulo Gisletta explains that fluency reflects robust brain health, requiring memory, processing speed, and executive control. Daily linguistic exercises, such as reading aloud, solving crosswords, or learning new words, strengthen neural pathways, accessible to all ages and backgrounds. These practices cultivate mental vigor, ensuring cognitive resilience over time. A 2025 Nature Aging study links deep and REM sleep to reduced neurodegeneration. Rebecca Robbins warns that chronic sleep disruption accelerates Alzheimer's-related atrophy in regions like the precuneus. Deep sleep clears toxic proteins like beta-amyloid, while REM consolidates memory. Natural wakefulness, achieved by waking without alarms, optimizes circadian rhythms, enhancing restorative sleep. Consistent bedtimes, morning sunlight exposure, avoiding evening caffeine or alcohol, and aerobic exercise boost REM sleep, creating a neuroprotective cycle. These strategies empower individuals to combat cognitive decline. Linguistic exercises fortify the mind, akin to tending fertile soil. Natural wakefulness aligns with biological rhythms, fostering brain health. Online protocols guide this transition, debunking myths of impracticality. Avoiding evening stimulants and blue light supports restful sleep, protecting against decline. Ullman Lindenberger asserts that mental engagement and restful sleep ensure enduring vitality. These evidence-based habits reject convoluted health trends, offering a path to clarity and resilience for a vibrant, extended life. The ice cream divide, vanilla versus chocolate and America's polarization. The vanilla chocolate ice cream debate mirrors America's cultural divide. Vanilla, with a 28% market share per the International Dairy Foods Association in 2024, is lauded for its versatility. Emily Hartwell describes it as a canvas for toppings, appealing to traditionalists evoking nostalgic simplicity. Chocolate, at 15%, offers indulgent depth, with theobromine inducing euphoria, per Marcus Reed. The author champions chocolate's bold complexity, dismissing vanilla's timidity as a lack of sensory ambition. A 2025 American Culinary Institute survey shows 62% of Americans are loyal to one flavor, with 10% alternating. This polarization reflects societal rigidity, with transient crossovers driven by mood. Vanilla's dominance stems from inertia, while chocolate aligns with innovation. Critics of chocolate claim it overpowers, but its intensity is a virtue for discerning palates. The lack of compromise mirrors broader divisions, where preference becomes identity. The debate calls for openness to diverse tastes, with chocolate's superiority tempered by vanilla's situational appeal. Conclusion: a call to action for truth and sovereignty. America faces a multifaceted crisis: immigration loopholes, bureaucratic corruption, media manipulation, corporate immunity, foreign land grabs, societal decay, and cultural polarization. Trump's immigration reforms tighten citizenship and visa rules, prioritizing American workers against globalist exploitation. Bongino's exposé on Obama-era malfeasance demands accountability for treasonous acts that undermine democracy. The Traverse County Walmart stabbing exposes media bias, shielding suspect details to protect liberal agendas, perpetuating a climate of denial. Gosar's H.R. 4668 challenges Big Pharma's immunity, restoring justice for those harmed by injections. Nebraska's complicity in Chinese land acquisitions threatens food security, necessitating a federal investigation to expose corruption. Farage's warnings of Britain's collapse serve as a clarion call for the West, urging nationalist resurgence against globalist betrayals. Verbal fluency and natural sleep empower longevity, offering personal agency amid systemic failures. The vanilla chocolate divide reflects a polarized nation, calling for openness to bridge cultural gaps. These issues demand unapologetic action to reclaim sovereignty, accountability, and clarity. The public must reject elite betrayals, from corporate greed to media obfuscation, and embrace truth. A unified response is critical to counter foreign influence, restore institutional trust, and heal cultural divides. Like, share, subscribe, and share your opinions in the description. Visit realfreenews.com for more unfiltered truth, and join the fight to restore America's strength and unity.
Welcome to the Real Free News Podcast, where we dive into the ideas that challenge the status quo and spark conversation. I'm Maya, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lena, for another deep dive into thought-provoking content.
Hey everyone, Lena here. Today we're exploring a fascinating report titled Subversive Literature, a comprehensive exploration of radical texts and their knowledge. It's a journey through centuries of texts that push boundaries, politically, spiritually, and philosophically. We'll break down the research, the essay, its supporting materials, and the accompanying video, which we'll introduce later. So, Maya, what stood out to you about this report?
Oh, Lena, where do I start? The essay scope is massive. It spans from 13th century grimoires like the Sworn Book of Honorius to 20th century works like the Satanic Bible. I was blown away by how it organizes these texts chronologically, showing this evolution of subversive thought. It's not just a list. It weaves a narrative about humanity's drive to challenge authority. What did you think about the research behind it?
The research is meticulous. The way it draws from primary sources and historical context for each text is impressive. For example, it digs into the medieval fear of witchcraft to explain why something like Malleus Maleficarum had such a grip on society. I appreciated how it doesn't shy away from controversial texts like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, addressing their impact while calling out their disputed authenticity. It's critical but fair. Did you find the thematic categories helpful?
Absolutely, Lena. The 4 categories, esoteric and occult exploration, political and social revolution, philosophical and individual empowerment, and controversial and ideological provocation, really clarified the diversity of these texts. Like grouping the Communist Manifesto with rules for radicals under political and social revolution shows how both push for systemic change, but in such different ways. It made me see connections I wouldn't have otherwise. What about the supporting materials? How do they add to this?
The supporting materials are gold. The detailed categorization of each text, with explanations and inspired works, adds so much depth. For instance, learning that the Book of Abramelin influenced Aleister Crowley's The Book of the Law gave me a new lens on how occult ideas evolve. It's like a roadmap of influence across centuries. I also loved how it lists inspired works like the Gulag Archipelago for the Black Book of Communism. It grounds the essay in a broader intellectual history. What's your take on how the essay handles the more controversial texts?
That's a great point. The essay doesn't endorse or condemn. It analyzes. Take Mein Kampf or the Turner Diaries. It acknowledges their harmful ideologies, but frames them as cautionary studies of extremism. I think that's brave because it trusts the reader to grapple with the ideas critically. It's not about glorifying these texts, but understanding their impact on knowledge and society. Speaking of impact, what do you think the video adds to this whole package?
The video sounds like it's going to bring this report to life. From what I gathered, it's a visual journey through these texts, blending historical visuals with commentary to show their cultural and philosophical weight. I'm excited to see how it handles the occult stuff, like, will we get creepy medieval manuscript vibes for the Grand Grimoire? It seems like it'll make the abstract ideas more tangible. Should we give our listeners a sneak peek and introduce the video?
Let's do it! Alright, everyone, we're about to play the video for Subversive Literature, a comprehensive exploration of radical texts and their knowledge. Expect a dynamic tour through centuries of radical ideas, from mystical grimoires to revolutionary manifestos. It's packed with visuals and insights that tie these texts to their historical moments. So, grab your headphones and let's dive in.
Subversive literature, spanning centuries from medieval grimoires to modern manifestos, forms a vast and intricate tapestry of human thought, challenging the foundations of authority, morality, and metaphysical understanding. These texts, ranging from political calls to action to esoteric rituals, embody philosophies that provoke, empower, or unsettle, each contributing uniquely to a collective reservoir of knowledge that redefines power, freedom, and existence. From revolutionary visions of social justice to occult explorations of demonic forces, these works reflect humanity's relentless drive to question established norms, assert individual will, or probe hidden truths. This essay organizes an exhaustive collection of such texts, drawn from a comprehensive discourse, in chronological order of their attributed writing, offering an expansive examination of their content, philosophical underpinnings, and contributions to knowledge. By tracing their historical emergence, we uncover interconnected themes: rebellion, self-actualization, metaphysical inquiry, and moral provocation that illuminate their significance, revealing how they shape human understanding across diverse domains. The texts under consideration, written between the 13th and 20th centuries, encompass a spectrum of intents and impacts. Some, like the Communist Manifesto, ignite social upheaval with visions of collective equity, weaving narratives of class struggle into political thought. Others, such as the Social Contract, reimagine governance, threading ideas of liberty and sovereignty into the fabric of human freedom. Esoteric works, like the Grand Grimoire and the Lesser Key of Solomon, delve into mystical realms, offering rituals that promise supernatural power. Texts like Mein Kampf and the Protocols of the Elders of Zion stir controversy with their ideological agendas, while the Turner Diaries provokes with dystopian visions of violence. These works, whether widely circulated or confined to obscure circles, share a subversive spirit, challenging political, religious, or cultural norms with alternative visions of reality. Their descriptions range from revolutionary blueprints to provocative philosophies to arcane manuals, each shaped by its historical context and the human impulse to defy or transcend. The thematic diversity of these texts, spanning social reform, individual empowerment, occult exploration, and ideological extremism, creates a rich mosaic of knowledge. Political texts, such as Das Kapital and Rules for Radicals, dismantle systemic oppression, proposing new social orders grounded in justice or activism. Philosophical works, like the Satanic Bible and the Book of the Law, reject conventional morality, weaving narratives of self-interest or esoteric wisdom. Occult texts, such as the Book of Abramelin and the Munich Manual of Demonic Magic, probe hidden dimensions, threading mystical practices into human curiosity about the unseen. Even texts associated with harm, like Malleus Maleficarum or the 120 Days of Sodom, contribute to knowledge by exposing the extremes of control or nihilism, serving as cautionary or intellectual touchstones. The debate over the Protocols of the Elders of Zion's authenticity underscores the complexity of subversive texts, reflecting both their power to shape narratives and their susceptibility to manipulation. This essay organizes these texts by their attributed writing dates, ensuring a historical progression that illuminates their evolution. Each entry provides an expansive description of the text's content, an overview of its philosophical or practical aims, and a summary of its contribution to knowledge, weaving a narrative that connects their themes across centuries. From medieval grimoires to modern ideological tracts, these works collectively challenge authority, offering insights into human aspirations, fears, and controversies. The conclusion synthesizes their contributions, highlighting how their diverse philosophies, revolutionary, individualistic, esoteric, or provocative, form a collective body of knowledge that reflects humanity's enduring quest to redefine power, meaning, and existence, without anchoring the analysis to any single religious text. Chronological analysis of subversive texts. The Sworn Book of Honorius. Written in the 13th century and attributed to the mythical figure Honorius of Thebes, the Sworn Book of Honorius is a medieval grimoire that intricately weaves Christian mysticism with occult practices, offering a detailed compendium of rituals designed to summon angels and demons for purposes ranging from divine insight to malevolent curses. The text outlines complex ceremonies requiring fasting, prayer, and the use of sacred symbols, alongside spells to gain knowledge, wield power, or enact harm, emphasizing spiritual discipline as a prerequisite for supernatural communion. Its philosophy merges spiritual ambition with taboo practices, subverting religious orthodoxy by repurposing sacred rituals for demonic ends, appealing to medieval scholars and mystics who sought esoteric wisdom beyond the Church's constraints. The work's narrative of spiritual rebellion challenges the boundaries of faith, presenting a pathway to transcend human limitations through mystical engagement. By threading ideas of divine and demonic interplay, it reflects the medieval tension between orthodoxy and forbidden knowledge, creating a provocative exploration of spiritual power. The Sworn Book contributes significantly to metaphysical knowledge, offering insights into the human desire to access hidden truths and wield supernatural influence. Its limited circulation among occult practitioners underscoring its niche but enduring role in shaping esoteric traditions. The Book of Abramelin. Composed in the mid-14th to early 15th century by Abraham of Worms, a Jewish mystic, the Book of Abramelin is a grimoire that presents an elaborate 18-month ritual to contact a holy guardian angel, granting the practitioner authority over demons for purposes such as acquiring knowledge, casting curses, or manipulating others. Combining Jewish mysticism with magical practices, the text requires rigorous spiritual preparation, including fasting and seclusion, and provides detailed incantations for both benevolent and harmful outcomes, reflecting a complex interplay of divine and occult elements. Its philosophy seeks spiritual elevation through forbidden rituals, subverting religious norms by blending sacred aspirations with demonic control, appealing to those craving transcendence through esoteric means. The narrative weaves a vision of disciplined mysticism, emphasizing personal mastery over supernatural forces as a path to enlightenment, challenging conventional boundaries of faith and morality. The Book of Abramelin enriches occult knowledge by threading narratives of spiritual ambition and power, offering a window into medieval spirituality and the human quest to harness unseen forces. Its limited readership among dedicated occultists highlighting its esoteric significance and influence on later magical traditions. The Munich Manual of Demonic Magic. Crafted in 15th century Germany as a Latin manuscript, the Munich Manual of Demonic Magic is a grimoire that focuses on necromancy, demon summoning, and curses, providing meticulous rituals to manipulate spirits or harm enemies through magical circles, incantations, and offerings. Written during a period of heightened fear of witchcraft, the text emphasizes practical magic for tangible outcomes like revenge or influence, with detailed instructions for invoking supernatural entities to achieve destructive ends. Its philosophy prioritizes control over otherworldly forces, subverting Christian prohibitions against sorcery as outlined in religious texts, appealing to practitioners seeking power or retribution in a superstitious era. The narrative weaves a stark vision of defiance, positioning magic as a tool to challenge religious and social norms, reflecting medieval anxieties about the occult and its potential to disrupt order. The Munich Manual contributes to esoteric knowledge by threading narratives of supernatural dominance, revealing the era's fascination with and fear of forbidden practices, its obscurity among occult scholars underscoring its provocative nature and enduring role in demonological studies. Malleus Maleficarum. Authored in 1486 by Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Sprenger, Malleus Maleficarum is a treatise that serves as a comprehensive manual for identifying, prosecuting, and executing alleged witches, codifying misogynistic and superstitious beliefs about demonic influence in late medieval Europe. The text combines theological arguments with legal procedures, detailing signs of witchcraft, interrogation techniques, and justifications for punishment, reflecting the era's intense religious fervor and fear of heresy. Its philosophy enforces religious orthodoxy, subverting rational inquiry by promoting fear-driven persecution, framing dissent, particularly by women, as demonic and justifying extreme measures to maintain control. Appealing to ecclesiastical and secular authorities, the work weaves a narrative of fear and power, legitimizing witch hunts as a defense against perceived evil. Malleus Maleficarum contributes to historical knowledge by threading narratives of control and fanaticism, exposing the dangers of dogmatic authority and its societal impact, its widespread influence in shaping witch hunts across Europe cementing its role as a cautionary study of religious extremism and the perils of unchecked power. The Lesser Key of Solomon. Written in the mid-17th century and attributed to the legendary King Solomon, The Lesser Key of Solomon is a grimoire that compiles rituals for summoning 72 demons, with its most famous section, the Ars Goetia, listing their sigils, powers, and invocation methods in meticulous detail. Blending mystical and practical elements, the text offers tools for controlling supernatural forces to achieve goals like knowledge, wealth, or influence, requiring precise rituals and magical symbols. Its philosophy seeks mastery over esoteric forces, subverting religious norms by providing access to demonic power, appealing to occultists who craved hidden knowledge in an era of growing scientific inquiry. The narrative weaves a vision of spiritual ambition, positioning the practitioner as a commander of otherworldly entities, challenging Christian prohibitions against sorcery. The Lesser Key contributes to occult knowledge by threading narratives of supernatural authority, illuminating human curiosity about the unseen and its potential for empowerment, its limited circulation among occult practitioners reflecting its esoteric allure and lasting influence on ceremonial magic. The Grimoire of Honorius. Composed in the late 17th century and attributed to Pope Honorius III, the Grimoire of Honorius is a provocative grimoire that outlines rituals for summoning demons and casting curses, requiring sacrilegious acts such as desecrating Christian symbols to achieve supernatural ends. The text blends religious imagery with occult practices, emphasizing ritual precision to invoke demonic powers for purposes like harm or manipulation, reflecting the era's tension between faith and forbidden knowledge. Its philosophy inverts religious rituals, subverting Christian orthodoxy by repurposing sacred elements for taboo purposes, appealing to those seeking power through defiant means. The narrative weaves a stark vision of spiritual rebellion, positioning the practitioner as a master of profane forces, challenging the moral boundaries of the time. The Grimoire of Honorius enriches occult knowledge by threading narratives of defiance and power, illuminating the complex interplay between sacred and profane in human thought, its obscurity among occult scholars underscoring its provocative nature and niche appeal in esoteric traditions. The Grand Grimoire. Crafted in the early 18th century, likely around the early 1700s, and known as the Red Dragon, the Grand Grimoire is a French grimoire that provides detailed rituals for summoning Lucifer and other demons, including pacts for wealth, power, or harm, often requiring blood offerings or sacrilegious acts to complete the ceremonies. The text emphasizes elaborate preparations, such as magical circles and incantations, to secure demonic alliances, reflecting the Enlightenment-era fascination with occult power amidst growing secularism. Its philosophy glorifies forbidden alliances, subverting Christian morality with promises of earthly gain, appealing to those seeking influence beyond religious constraints. The narrative weaves a vision of defiant ambition, positioning the practitioner as a negotiator with supernatural forces, challenging the era's moral and religious norms. The Grand Grimoire contributes to occult knowledge by threading narratives of supernatural ambition, reflecting humanity's fascination with power beyond conventional bounds, its limited circulation among occultists highlighting its provocative and esoteric significance. The Black Pullet. Written in the mid-18th century, The Black Pullet is an anonymous French grimoire that details talismanic magic for achieving wealth, love, and destruction, offering spells to summon spirits or harm enemies through intricate rituals and magical artifacts. The text blends esoteric allure with practical outcomes, providing instructions for creating talismans imbued with supernatural powers, reflecting the Enlightenment's curiosity about occult practices as a counterpoint to rationalism. Its philosophy seeks magical utility, subverting moral norms by offering tools for personal gain or harm, appealing to practitioners desiring control over tangible and spiritual realms. The narrative weaves a vision of empowerment through forbidden means, positioning the practitioner as a master of mystical forces, challenging religious and ethical boundaries. The Black Pullet enriches esoteric knowledge by threading narratives of practical magic, highlighting human desires for influence through taboo practices, its limited readership among occult enthusiasts underscoring its niche but enduring role in magical traditions. The 120 Days of Sodom. Written in 1785 by Marquis de Sade, The 120 Days of Sodom is a novel that depicts extreme violence, sexual depravity, and moral nihilism, chronicling the exploits of four aristocrats who indulge in unrestrained cruelty within an isolated castle. The narrative explores the boundaries of human behavior through graphic accounts of torture and excess, framed as a literary provocation rather than a practical guide, reflecting the late 18th century Enlightenment's fascination with moral and philosophical extremes. Its philosophy probes the limits of freedom and ethics, subverting societal norms with a nihilistic lens that questions the foundations of morality, appealing to intellectuals willing to confront humanity's darkest impulses. The narrative weaves a provocative exploration of human nature, challenging readers to grapple with the absence of moral constraints. The 120 Days of Sodom contributes to philosophical knowledge by threading narratives of moral inquiry, exposing the extremes of human behavior and sparking debates on ethics and freedom, its literary status ensuring its place in intellectual discourse. The Infernal Dictionary. Authored in 1818 by Jacques-Collin de Planzy, the Infernal Dictionary is a comprehensive compendium that catalogues demons, their powers, and rituals for invocation, blending scholarly documentation with occult lore to provide detailed entries on supernatural entities and spells for manipulation or harm. Written in the post-Enlightenment era, the text reflects a fascination with demonology as both a scholarly and mystical pursuit, offering rituals that range from summoning spirits to enacting curses. Its philosophy systematizes forbidden knowledge, subverting religious norms by glorifying demonic powers, appealing to occult scholars and curious intellectuals seeking to explore the supernatural. The narrative weaves a vision of intellectual and esoteric curiosity, positioning the practitioner as a student of hidden forces, challenging Christian prohibitions against sorcery. The Infernal Dictionary enriches occult knowledge by threading narratives of demonic exploration, reflecting humanity's fascination with the forbidden, its limited circulation among esoteric thinkers highlighting its niche but significant role in occult studies. The Communist Manifesto. Written in 1848 by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, the Communist Manifesto is a revolutionary call to action that articulates a vision of class struggle, urging the proletariat to overthrow capitalist hierarchies and establish a classless society based on collective justice. The text critiques economic exploitation, detailing the oppressive mechanisms of capitalism and advocating for revolutionary change to achieve equity, reflecting the industrial era's social upheavals. Its philosophy seeks economic justice, subverting capitalist norms with a radical ethos of collective empowerment, appealing to workers and intellectuals who envision a fairer world. The narrative weaves a vision of societal transformation, positioning the oppressed as agents of change, challenging entrenched power structures. The Communist Manifesto contributes to political knowledge by threading narratives of justice and rebellion, reshaping modern thought on class dynamics and economic systems, its widespread resonance underscoring its transformative impact on social movements. Das Kapital. Authored in 1867 by Karl Marx, Das Kapital is an exhaustive treatise that analyzes the exploitative structures of capitalism, detailing economic mechanisms like surplus value and their social consequences, written during the peak of the Industrial Revolution. The text critiques the systemic injustices of capitalist economies, exposing how wealth concentration perpetuates class oppression, and advocates for structural reform through rigorous economic analysis. Its philosophy seeks to dismantle economic hierarchies, subverting capitalist norms with a vision of systemic change, appealing to scholars and activists committed to addressing inequality. The narrative weaves a critical exploration of societal power, positioning economic critique as a tool for liberation, challenging the era's dominant ideologies. Das Kapital enriches economic knowledge by threading narratives of systemic critique and reform, illuminating the mechanics of power and exploitation, its widespread influence shaping economic and political discourse across centuries. A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Authored in 1792 by Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman is a seminal treatise that argues for women's equality, challenging patriarchal norms with a passionate call for education, autonomy, and intellectual freedom. Written during the Enlightenment, the text critiques societal restrictions that subjugate women, advocating for their inclusion in public and intellectual life based on reason and justice, reflecting the era's emphasis on universal human rights. Its philosophy seeks gender equity, subverting patriarchal structures with a vision of empowerment through education, appealing to reformers and intellectuals who champion social progress. The narrative weaves a powerful case for liberation, positioning women as equal agents in society, challenging systemic oppression with rational arguments. A Vindication contributes to feminist and philosophical knowledge by threading narratives of equality and empowerment, reshaping societal views on gender and power, its widespread resonance among Enlightenment thinkers cementing its role in advancing social justice. What is to be done? Written in 1902 by Vladimir Lenin, What is to be Done? Is a political text that outlines strategies for revolutionary organization, urging disciplined action to overthrow Tsarist oppression in Russia through the formation of a vanguard party. Composed during a period of intense political unrest, the text emphasizes the need for a structured revolutionary movement to mobilize workers, detailing tactics for propaganda and agitation. Its philosophy prioritizes revolutionary praxis, subverting political authority with a vision of liberation for the oppressed, appealing to activists committed to systemic change. The narrative weaves a blueprint for organized rebellion, positioning the revolutionary as a disciplined agent of transformation, challenging autocratic power structures. What is to be done? Enriches political knowledge by threading narratives of strategic activism, shaping revolutionary thought and practice, its widespread impact among early 20th century radicals underscoring its role in political movements. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Written in 1903 in Russia, The Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a text of disputed authenticity that purports to document a Jewish conspiracy to control global affairs, outlining alleged plans for economic and political domination through manipulation of institutions. Emerging in an era of rising anti-Semitism, the text gained widespread attention, with proponents arguing it exposes hidden power structures, citing its alignment with historical events like economic crises as evidence of its truth. Critics, however, assert it is a forgery, pointing to its plagiarism from Maurice Joly's Dialogue in Hell, 1864, and its use by Russian secret police to incite hatred, supported by biased historical evidence debunking its claims. Its philosophy claims to reveal elite manipulation, subverting trust in societal institutions, appealing to those drawn to conspiracy narratives, though its disputed nature fuels ongoing debate. The narrative weaves a provocative vision of suspicion and division, influencing ideological discourse by amplifying mistrust. The Protocols contributes to knowledge of propaganda and social division, threading narratives of power and mistrust, its widespread influence highlighting its role in shaping anti-Semitic thought and conspiracy culture, despite its contested authenticity. The Book of the Law. Authored in 1904 by Aleister Crowley, the Book of the Law is a foundational text of Thelema, a philosophy of individual will delivered through alleged supernatural revelation, written during a period of growing interest in esoteric spirituality. The text includes cryptic verses and rituals that emphasize personal freedom and self-actualization, urging followers to pursue their true will above societal or religious constraints. Its philosophy exalts individual liberation, subverting religious and social norms with esoteric insight, appealing to those seeking spiritual autonomy through mysticism. The narrative weaves a vision of rebellious enlightenment, positioning the practitioner as a sovereign agent of their destiny, challenging conventional morality. The Book of the Law contributes to esoteric knowledge by threading narratives of individual empowerment, reshaping views on spirituality and freedom, its limited but dedicated readership reflecting its provocative influence on occult thought. Mein Kampf. Written in 1925 by Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf is an autobiographical manifesto that outlines his anti-Semitic, nationalist, and militaristic ideology, advocating racial supremacy and territorial expansion during a period of post-World War I turmoil in Germany. The text details Hitler's personal beliefs, political strategies, and vision for a racially homogeneous state, blending propaganda with ideological fervor to shape the Nazi agenda. Its philosophy promotes authoritarian nationalism, subverting democratic values with a vision of exclusionary dominance, appealing to extremists seeking to reshape society through force. The narrative weaves a chilling case for ideological control, positioning racial purity as a societal ideal, challenging humanistic principles. Mein Kampf contributes to knowledge of ideological extremism, threading narratives of power and prejudice, offering a cautionary study of destructive political thought, its widespread historical impact underscoring its role in shaping catastrophic policies. The Satanic Bible. Authored in 1969 by Anton Lavey, the Satanic Bible codifies atheistic Satanism, using Satan as a symbolic figure for individualism, hedonism, and skepticism, written during the countercultural upheaval of the late 1960s. The text includes the 9 satanic statements, philosophical essays, and rituals designed for personal empowerment, rejecting traditional religious morality in favor of self-interest and earthly fulfillment. Its philosophy subverts spiritual authority, promoting autonomy over dogma, appealing to those seeking liberation from conventional norms. The narrative weaves a provocative vision of personal freedom, positioning the individual as the ultimate authority, challenging religious and moral hierarchies. The Satanic Bible contributes to philosophical knowledge by threading narratives of skepticism and autonomy, reshaping perspectives on morality and power, its widespread readership reflecting its cultural provocation and appeal. Rules for Radicals. Written in 1971 by Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals is a manual that provides practical tactics for grassroots activism, offering strategies to empower communities against institutional power during a period of social and political activism in the United States. The text details methods for organizing, confronting authority, and shifting power dynamics, emphasizing pragmatic rebellion to achieve social change. Its philosophy seeks to disrupt systemic inequities, subverting institutional authority with a vision of community empowerment, appealing to activists committed to justice. The narrative weaves a blueprint for action, positioning the organizer as a catalyst for change, challenging entrenched power structures. Rules for Radicals enriches political knowledge by threading narratives of practical activism, offering tools for social transformation, its widespread influence underscoring its role in shaping community organizing. The Turner Diaries. Written in 1978 by William Luther Pierce under the pseudonym Andrew MacDonald, The Turner Diaries is a dystopian novel that depicts a violent white supremacist revolution in the United States, advocating racial genocide and societal overthrow, composed during a period of rising far-right extremism. The narrative follows a malicious campaign to dismantle the government and eliminate minorities, presenting a chilling vision of racial and ideological conflict. Its philosophy promotes extremist supremacy, subverting social cohesion with a call for violent division, appealing to fringe groups drawn to radical ideologies. The narrative weaves a provocative case for destruction, positioning racial purity as a revolutionary goal, challenging democratic and humanistic values. The Turner Diaries contributes to knowledge of extremist propaganda, threading narratives of division and violence, serving as a cautionary study of radical ideologies, its limited but impactful readership highlighting its provocative influence. The Black Book of Communism. Authored in 1997 by Stephen Courtois and others, The Black Book of Communism is a historical analysis that critiques communist regimes, arguing they caused widespread death and oppression through purges, famines, and authoritarian policies, written in the post-Cold War era. The text examines case studies from the Soviet Union, China, and other communist states, presenting a narrative of ideological failure and human cost. Its philosophy seeks to expose the flaws of Marxism, subverting leftist ideals with a critical lens, appealing to scholars and anti-communist advocates. The narrative weaves a case for ideological critique, positioning communism as a destructive force, challenging revolutionary optimism. The Black Book contributes to historical knowledge by threading narratives of political critique, exposing the consequences of extremism, its widespread academic influence underscoring its role in shaping post-Cold War discourse. Conclusion. The expansive collection of subversive texts, spanning the 13th to 20th centuries, forms a profound repository of human knowledge, weaving together philosophies of rebellion, power, metaphysical exploration, and ideological provocation. From medieval grimoires to modern manifestos, these works reflect humanity's relentless drive to challenge authority, redefine morality, and probe the unseen, each contributing uniquely to a collective understanding of power, freedom, and existence. Their thematic diversity, encompassing social justice, individual autonomy, occult wisdom, and extremist ideologies, creates a rich tapestry of ideas, threading narratives that illuminate the complexities of human thought and aspiration. Medieval grimoires, such as the Sworn Book of Honorius, the Book of Abramelin, and the Munich Manual of Demonic Magic, weave narratives of esoteric power, subverting religious norms with rituals that promise control over supernatural forces. Their limited circulation reflects their niche appeal, yet they enrich occult knowledge by exploring humanity's fascination with the forbidden. Malleus Maleficarum threads narratives of fear and control, exposing the perils of religious fanaticism, while the 120 Days of Sodom probes moral extremes, contributing to philosophical debates on human nature. Political texts like the Communist Manifesto, Das Kapital, What is to be Done, and Rules for Radicals weave narratives of justice and activism, reshaping societal structures with calls for equity and empowerment. Their widespread resonance underscores their transformative impact on political thought. Philosophical and esoteric works, such as the Satanic Bible and the Book of the Law, thread narratives of individual liberation, challenging spiritual and moral norms with visions of autonomy and self-actualization. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, despite its disputed authenticity, contributes to knowledge of propaganda, weaving narratives of mistrust that highlight the power of divisive ideas. Mein Kampf and the Turner Diaries offer cautionary insights into extremist ideologies, threading narratives of prejudice and violence that underscore the dangers of radical thought. The Black Book of Communism critiques political ideologies, weaving narratives of historical failure that shape modern discourse. Together, these texts form a constellation of subversive ideas, each illuminating a facet of humanity's quest for meaning, power, or truth. The collective significance of these works lies in their shared defiance, challenging political, religious, or cultural norms with diverse philosophies. Their varied reception, celebrated, condemned, or marginalized, reflects their power to provoke, inspire, or unsettle. From revolutionary calls to esoteric rituals to extremist visions, they weave a narrative of human ambition, exposing the tensions between control and freedom, knowledge and fear. This comprehensive exploration affirms their role as a dynamic body of knowledge, not a singular doctrine, but a multifaceted reflection of humanity's enduring struggle to redefine its place in the world.
Wow. Maya, that video was intense. The visuals really brought out the historical context, like those eerie books for Malleus Maleficarum paired with the witch hunt narration. What was your favorite part?
Honestly, the segment on the Communist Manifesto hit me hard. The way it used actual references to the class struggles Marx and Engels were writing about, it made the text feel so immediate. I also loved how it transitioned from medieval grimoires to modern texts, showing this thread of rebellion across time. Did anything surprise you?
Yeah, I was surprised by how the video handled the Satanic Bible. It didn't sensationalize it, but showed it as a philosophical rebellion against dogma with those 1960s counterculture references. It made me rethink its place in the subversive canon. Also, the way it tackled the protocols, calling out its disputes while showing its historical value, was so well done. It's like the video balances provocation with responsibility.
Totally agree. The video's strength is how it visualizes the essay's core idea. These texts, whether cult, political, or controversial, are all about challenging norms. I loved the timeline animation, too. It really tied together the chronological approach. What do you think this all says about subversive literature's role today?
It shows that subversive texts are still relevant. They're not just relics, they shape how we question authority now. Like, Rules for Radicals still inspires activists, and occult texts influence modern spirituality. The video made me think about how these ideas ripple into today's debates on power and freedom. Any final thoughts, Maya?
Just that this report is a reminder of how powerful words can be. Whether it's a grimoire promising supernatural power or a manifesto calling for revolution, these texts push us to think critically about the world. It's a call to engage with ideas, even the uncomfortable ones, and that's what makes this study so compelling.
Well said. All right, folks, that's our deep dive into subversive literature. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on your favorite parts of the report. What text sparked your curiosity? Let us know. We'll see you next time on the Real Free News Podcast.
In the heart of America's plains, Nebraska's political landscape sprawls like a circus of ineptitude, its congressional delegates and state leaders starring as clowns in a tragicomic spectacle. The state's representatives, Senators Pete Ricketts and Deb Fischer, alongside Representatives Don Bacon, Adrian Smith, and Mike Flood, embody a peculiar blend of phoniness, incompetence, and moral bankruptcy. Joined by Governor Jim Pillen and a cast of local misfits, they orchestrate a governance so absurd it rivals a child's fever dream, leaving Nebraskans to suffer the consequences of their collective folly. Pete Ricketts, a silver-spoon fraud, parades as a champion of the good life, while his globalist leanings betray the state's heartland values. As governor from 2015 to 2023, he funneled millions into health mandates during the Great Wellness Hoax, enforcing restrictions that shuttered businesses and fractured communities. Now a senator since 2023, his smug demeanor and rehearsed platitudes barely mask his disdain for the common folk he claims to serve. His support for unchecked border crossings, evident in his silence during the past 4 years' migrant surge, underscores his allegiance to elite interests over Nebraska's sovereignty. Deb Fischer, a senator since 2013, shuffles through Washington with the coherence of a malfunctioning robot. Her tenure is marked by parroting party lines, her mind seemingly unburdened by original thought. During the wellness scam, she backed federal overreach, endorsing policies that crushed small-town economies. Her inaction on the border deluge, despite Nebraska's rising costs from undocumented arrivals, reveals a spinelessness matched only by her inability to articulate a vision beyond stale talking points. The House trio, Bacon, Smith, and Flood, form a trifecta of treachery. Don Bacon, representing Omaha's 2nd District, is a chameleon whose loyalty shifts with the highest bidder. His support for foreign lobbies, particularly Israel's, overshadows any pretense of serving Nebraskans. Adrian Smith, a 3rd District fixture, is a bland automaton, his career a monument to mediocrity and wasted opportunities. Mike Flood, the 1st District's self-proclaimed nerd, cloaks his incompetence in folksy charm, yet his role in funding border chaos through inaction is undeniable. All three, present during the wellness debacle, endorse measures that eroded liberties and livelihoods, yet they remain entrenched, unaccountable. Governor Jim Pillen, a Ricketts protege since 2023, stumbles through leadership like a drunken puppeteer. His administration's complicity in the health fraud and failure to stem the tide of undocumented migrants mirror his predecessor's missteps. Meanwhile, Omaha's Mayor John Ewing, elected in 2025, presides over a city teetering on collapse. His council, a clownish assembly of pseudo-intellectuals like Pete Festerson and Juanita Johnson, bickers over trivialities while the Human Rights and Relations Department funnels millions to facilitate illegal migration, as reported by the Nebraska Examiner in 2025 to the unicameral legislature. A 49-member circus epitomizes collective stupidity. Senators like John Arch and Merv reap waste sessions debating daylight saving time and property taxes, achieving nothing, as noted in legislative reports from 2024. Their complicity in health mandates and border negligence cements their legacy as Nebraska's premier buffoons. This cavalcade of charlatans from Ricketts to Rule transforms Nebraska into a cautionary tale. Their incompetence, corruption, and betrayal weave a narrative of a state betrayed by its own, a heartland hoodwinked by hypocrites. Nebraskans deserve better than this parade of phonies, whose every misstep drags the state deeper into disarray.
Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where unfiltered truth pierces through the haze of mainstream distortion to expose the forces shaping our world. On this July 29, 2025 broadcast, we confront a cascade of systemic failures, hidden agendas, and institutional betrayals that threaten the fabric of America and beyond. From a Manhattan mass shooting exposing media bias to a vicious mob assault in Cincinnati falsely pinned on racism, we uncover realities the corporate press buries. The Trump administration's battle against a flood of lawsuits reveals opposition to its bold policies, while the EU's censorship scheme stifles global speech. A $200 billion federal savings initiative sparks a Trump-Musk feud, and California's wage hike obliterates jobs, disproportionately harming minorities. The FBI's silence on a presidential assassination attempt fuels distrust, mirroring historical cover-ups, while Representative Jasmine Crockett's antics signal Democratic dysfunction. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. condemns a corrupt compensation system for injured children, and the Islamic slave trade's brutal legacy demands accountability. Finally, a debate over America's greenest lawn reflects deeper ideological rifts. Real Free News Radio delivers these stories with unrelenting clarity, exposing betrayals and demanding justice. Stay tuned for the unvarnished truth. Manhattan shooting, media missteps and broader implications. On July 28, 2025, a tragic shooting at 345 Park Avenue in Manhattan resulted in the deaths of 4 individuals, including NYPD officer Dider al-Islam, with one person critically injured. The shooter, identified as 27-year-old Shane Devon Tamura from Las Vegas, carried out the attack with an M4 assault-style rifle in the building's lobby, targeting Officer Islam, a security guard, and 2 others before taking an elevator to the 33rd floor, where he fatally shot another person. Tamura, who had a documented history of mental health issues, then took his own life. Manhattan shooting, media missteps and broader implications against the NFL. On July 28, 2025, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, from his high school football days, though his motives are still under investigation. The incident drew significant attention due to early media missteps. CNN, during its live coverage, described Tamura as possibly white based on initial surveillance footage, despite later released images clearly showing he was black. This error, made by anchor Aaron Burnett and analyst John Miller, sparked widespread criticism on social media, with users accusing the network of pushing a misleading narrative. For example, posts on X highlighted the discrepancy, noting that security footage was already circulating when CNN made the claim, suggesting the misidentification was not a simple mistake but indicative of bias. Sunglasses, mustache, male, possibly white, was particularly scrutinized after the NYPD identified Tamura and released clearer images. The loss of Officer Islam, a 36-year-old Bangladeshi immigrant, along with the other victims, including a Blackstone executive and a security guard, has raised questions about public safety and law enforcement preparedness. Some have pointed to this tragedy as highlighting challenges in ensuring officers are equipped for such high-stakes situations. Additionally, the incident has fueled discussions about mental health support and the need for accurate crime reporting, as Tamura's documented mental health history is part of the ongoing investigation. The media's rush to label Tamura's race incorrectly has reignited debates about journalistic integrity and the influence of preconceived narratives. While some defended CNN, noting the challenges of real-time reporting, critics argue that such errors contribute to public mistrust. This tragedy underscores the need for careful, fact-based reporting and a broader focus on addressing mental health and safety concerns to prevent future incidents, all while honoring the victims and supporting the Manhattan community. Trump's legal battles, a barrage of lawsuits against bold reforms. Since President Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20, 2025, his administration has faced over 200 lawsuits targeting more than 90 executive actions. These legal assaults, launched by activist groups, state attorneys general, and individuals, aim to derail policies on immigration, government efficiency, military readiness, and election integrity. Compiled by Fox News Digital, the lawsuits reflect fierce opposition from Democratic officials mental health and advocacy organizations to prevent future incidents. Trump's agenda. Key targets include the Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship order, challenged by groups like the New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support and individuals like Odo, a Hispanic immigrant. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by Elon Musk, faces suits from the Center for Biological Diversity for its aggressive cuts to federal bureaucracy. The Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism order has drawn challenges from transgender inmates like Maria Moe and soldiers like Nicholas Talbot. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a black woman with a history of targeting Trump, leads a coalition of 19 state attorneys general, including Michigan's Dana Nessel, accusing Trump of overstepping legal bounds. James vowed to fight back to protect New Yorkers, framing Trump's actions as authoritarian. Trump, a Caucasian male with distinctive orange-blonde hair, has labeled these lawsuits lawfare orchestrated by Democrats. In a February 2025 interview with Fox News' Bret Baier, he dismissed them as attempts by loser Democrats to block his reforms. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Representative Ayanna Pressley have vowed to confront Trump in courts and streets, while Representative Jasmine Crockett accused him of undermining democracy. Other lawsuits target orders like securing our borders, challenged by the Las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center, and combating anti-Semitism, contested by academic groups. Environmental organizations like the Sierra Club oppose the Unleashing American Energy order, while the NAACP fights the dismantling of diversity programs. Trump's defiant response, branding opponents traitors and scum, underscores the high-stakes battle between his administration and a coalition determined to halt his agenda through relentless litigation. These lawsuits reveal a deep-seated resistance to reforms aimed at reshaping America's governance, exposing the lengths to which adversaries will go to preserve the status quo. EU's Digital Services Act, a global censorship machine. The European Union's Digital Services Act, DSA, stands exposed as a tool to suppress political speech, satire, and commentary worldwide, according to a House Judiciary Committee report led by Chairman Jim Jordan. The DSA coerces platforms into aligning with Brussels' ideological demands under threat of crippling fines or operational shutdowns, undermining free expression globally. Publicly framed as a digital safety measure, the DSA grants EU regulators, like former Commissioner Thierry Breton, sweeping authority to target harmful content. Breton's 2023 attempt to label a Trump-Musk livestream as illegal sparked outrage, leading to his resignation. His successor, Henna Virkkunen, has intensified content controls. The DSA forces American platforms like X and Meta to adopt global moderation policies that clash with First Amendment protections, with non-compliance risking fines of 6% of global revenue. Disputes are resolved by EU-approved arbitrators, incentivizing self-censorship. The DSA targets conservative rhetoric and satire, labeling phrases like "take back our country" as hate speech. Former Commissioner Thierry Breton, a U.S.-based authority to target French policies, was flagged for removal, and a German tweet advocating for deporting criminal foreigners was branded incitement. The law's 45 million user threshold disproportionately hits American platforms, while EU-funded groups like the Institute for Strategic Dialogue push for over-censorship. Internal documents reveal EU pressure on platforms to purge lawful content, threatening global free speech. This authoritarian scheme, enforced by unelected bureaucrats, prioritizes ideological conformity over open discourse. American platforms bear the brunt, while European firms are largely spared. The DSA's global reach undermines sovereignty, forcing platforms to bow to Brussels' whims or face ruin. The House Judiciary Committee's findings demand a fierce response to protect free expression from Europe's overreach. Doge's $200 billion savings and the Trump-Musk feud. The Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, launched under President Trump in 2025, has slashed nearly $200 billion in federal spending, terminating 12,426 contracts worth $53 billion, 15,488 grants totaling $44 billion, and 384 leases saving $140 million. Recent cuts include $5.1 billion in wasteful contracts, yielding $498 million in savings, such as a $1.4 million health and human services contract in Rwanda. These actions, saving $1,232 per American, reflect Doge's relentless drive to curb bureaucratic excess. This achievement is overshadowed by a public feud between Trump and Elon Musk, a South African-born tech mogul. Musk, who briefly aided Doge, exited his role in May and announced the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a spending measure he called a pork-filled abomination. Trump, in a July 24 Truth Social post, denied targeting Musk's companies but hinted at scrutinizing Tesla and SpaceX subsidies, calling Musk a subsidy-dependent opportunist. Musk countered on X, defending his contracts as merit-based and warning that redirecting them would harm taxpayers. The clash highlights competing visions for efficiency. Musk as disloyal, while Musk positions himself as a defender of meritocracy. Doge's cuts, while monumental, fuel tensions with influential figures like Musk, whose pale, lanky frame and erratic persona amplify the drama. This feud underscores the challenges of reforming a bloated federal system, where personal rivalries and policy disputes collide, threatening the momentum of fiscal overhaul. The $200 billion in savings stands as a testament to Doge's impact, but the Trump-Musk rift reveals the complexities of dismantling entrenched waste. California's wage hike disaster. Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where unfiltered truth pierces through the haze of mainstream distortion to expose the forces shaping our world. On this July 29, 2025 broadcast, we confront a cascade of systemic failures, hidden agendas, and institutional betrayals that threaten the fabric of America and beyond. From a Manhattan mass shooting exposing media bias to a vicious mob assault in Cincinnati falsely pinned on racism, we uncover realities the corporate press buries. The Trump administration's battle against a flood of lawsuits reveals opposition to its bold policies, while the EU's censorship scheme stifles global speech. A $200 billion federal savings initiative sparks a Trump-Musk through the haze of, and California's wage hike obliterates jobs, disproportionately harming minorities. The FBI's silence on a presidential assassination attempt fuels distrust, mirroring historical cover-ups, while Representative Jasmine Crockett's antics signal Democratic dysfunction. From a Manhattan mass shooting, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. condemns a corrupt compensation system for injured children, and the Islamic slave trade's brutal legacy demands accountability. Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where unfiltered truth pierces through the haze of mainstream distortion to expose the forces shaping our world. On this July 29, 2025 broadcast, we confront a cascade of systemic failures, hidden agendas, and institutional betrayals that threaten the fabric of America and beyond. From a Manhattan mass shooting exposing media bias to a vicious mob assault in Cincinnati falsely pinned on racism, we uncover realities the corporate press buries. The Trump administration's battle against a flood of lawsuits reveals opposition to its bold policies, while the EU's censorship scheme stifles global speech. A $200 billion federal savings initiative sparks a Trump-Musk feud, and California's wage hike obliterates jobs, disproportionately harming minorities. The FBI's silence on a presidential assassination attempt fuels distrust, mirroring historical cover-ups, while Representative Jasmine Crockett's antics signal Democratic Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where unfiltered truth pierces through the haze of mainstream distortion to expose the forces shaping our world. On this July Welcome to Real Free News Radio, where unfiltered truth pierces through the haze of mainstream distortion to expose the forces shaping our world. On this July 29, 2025 broadcast, we confront a cascade of systemic failures, hidden agendas, and institutional betrayals that threaten the fabric of America and beyond. From a Manhattan mass shooting exposing media bias to a vicious mob assault in Cincinnati falsely pinned on racism, we uncover realities the corporate press buries. The Trump administration's battle against a flood of lawsuits reveals opposition to its bold policies, while the EU's censorship scheme stifles global speech. A $200 billion federal savings initiative sparks a Trump-Musk feud, and California's wage hike obliterates jobs, disproportionately harming minorities. The FBI's silence on a presidential assassination attempt fuels distrust, mirroring historical cover-ups, while Representative Jasmine Crockett's antics signal Democratic dysfunction. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. condemns a corrupt compensation system for injured children, and the Islamic slave trade's brutal legacy demands accountability. Finally,